Dear students, let us begin with the second part of the lesson on the India-China War in 1962, in which we will discuss about India's stand on Tibet and the Sino-Indian dispute over territory. Let us discuss about India's stand on Tibet. Under British domination, the region of Tibet had retained its autonomous status. India, under the British rule, had obtained some special rights in the region of Tibet. However, India recognizes that it does not possess sufficient elbow room for maneuverability in Tibet, as that would arouse suspicions on the part of China regarding India's political ambitions and intentions. Thus, in April 1954, India signed an agreement with China on trade and intercourse between India and the Tibet region of China, by which it recognized Tibet as a part of China and gave up its pre-colonial special privileges in Tibet. The basis of the agreement was driven by the principles of peaceful coexistence between the two countries. The Panchsheel Agreement, or the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, included developing India-China relations along the lines of 5 essential conditions to maintain peace and tranquility both at their respective borders and in the overall bilateral relationship. With the signing of the agreement, India made its intentions clear that it only extended its sympathy for the people of Tibet and requested the government of China to maintain the autonomous character of the Tibetan region, but beyond that, India would not involve itself in the affairs of Tibet, as that would be a violation of the core principles of Panchsheel. Meanwhile, the situation in Tibet continued to deteriorate. Despite China assuring India of granting Tibet full autonomy, Tibet accused Chinese forces of imposing democratic reforms over the region against the local people's consent. Tibet rose in armed resistance against Chinese forces, which the latter crushed completely with ease. Casualties soared high among Tibetans, and amidst escalating tensions, the Dalai Lama fled Tibet to seek shelter in India. The Indian government duly welcomed him and granted him political asylum in 1959. India's reasons for taking such steps on 3 grounds, which are follow. It is incumbent on it to take care of India's security and national interest, to manage cordial relations with China as far as possible, to bear in mind the close ties of history, culture and religion between India and Tibet. Thus, India tried to maintain a balancing act by granting asylum to Dalai Lama while trying not to assist the Tibetans in their armed resistance in any way. However, China perceived this as India providing assistance to the Tibetan rebels in rising against the Chinese. This marked the beginning of deterioration in Sino-Indian bilateral relations. Let us discuss about Sino-Indian dispute over territory. In the spirit of Panchsheel, Nehru wrote an memo in July 1954 directing a revision in the maps of India to show definite boundaries on all frontiers. China, however, continued to publish maps showing some 1,20,000 square kilometers of Indian territory as Chinese. When questioned, Chinese Premier Chou En-lai's response was that these were old maps being reprinted, as they did not have time to survey the regions to establish proper knowledge regarding the extent of the boundaries, and assured Nehru that no confrontations needed to arise in that front. India took China's implicit statement for granted, recognizing the McMahon line as the legitimate border between the two countries as understood and accepted by India. For some years, the relations remained peaceful with regular exchange of leaders at the highest levels between the two countries. As tensions surrounded several border passes and regions between India and China, Nehru wrote a letter to Zhou Enlai in December 1958, delineating the situation on the ground and questioning the veracity of his assurances that no border disputes exist between the two. Zhou Enlai replied distinctly that the Sino-Indian boundary was never a settled one, as it had never been formally delineated. The first mutual suspicions and tensions thus flared up, and both sides decided to maintain the status quo, with neither side taking unilateral action in exercise of what it conceives to be its right. China raised the border dispute for the first time in January 1959. In a letter on 23 January 1959, the Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai wrote to Nehru that China had right over large chunks of Indian territory in different sectors of the Himalayas. But Nehru rejected the Chinese claim over Indian territory. However, in 1954, when negotiations were held between China and India for the agreement on trade and commerce, the border question was not raised. I hope you understood about India's stand on Tibet and the Sino-Indian dispute over territory. We will discuss about Sino-Indian War in 1962 in the next video. Thank you.